She's not with us this meeting. She's here in spirit, and I think having a really special time with Steve, remembering his father and the service he provided to our country. So let me just mention we have State Senator Janet Howe is on the video teleconference. We may have Delegate Barry Knight and Delegate Terry Kilgore may join us as well. They have some meetings this afternoon, so we may have one or both of them join us for the meeting. So with that, let me turn it over to Sarah, who's going to introduce our meeting platform and for those participating electronically from the public.
Good. Thank you very much. We're using Google Meet today for our hybrid in-person electronic meeting. As the chairman mentioned, Senator Howell and Delegates Kilgore and Knight have requested to participate remotely under the provisions of our electronic meeting participation policy. So I'd just like that recognized in the minutes. To ensure that we're recording all member votes accurately, we will be conducting a vote here, and then we'll be doing a roll call vote for the members that are participating virtually. So that'll just be a little bit of a pause in our meeting. For folks that are online, there's circle-shaped icons at the bottom of the screen. One of those is for muting your speakers, one that looks like a microphone, one that looks like a camera. Do not hit the red phone button. You'll suspend your call. I've done that many times. So we would like to just ask individuals who are not speaking to please leave your phones on mute. When you do speak, please introduce yourself. If you have a question or comment, you can use the chat feature. Billy Gamble on my team is going to be moderating and monitoring that to make sure we can manage the dialogue. That'll be all, sir.
Okay, that's a good question.
Yes.
Do we have to take a vote to say it's okay for them to participate remotely for the record?
Per the policy, it says it's automatically accepted and if received by the chair.
Oh,
and
okay.
So if there was a disagreement, I think with the request, then a vote could be called.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure because when I sit
Jim.
on there do that, I just didn't want us to.
Good question. Good question. Okay, roll call. Andrew, can you please call the roll?
Delegate Austin.
Present.
Senator Barker.
Present.
Secretary Cummings.
Present.
Ben Davenport.
Here.
Jim Dyke.
Here.
David Whalen.
Here.
Leah Freeman. Here. Speaker Gilbert. Eva T. Carney. Senator Howell.
Here.
Delegate Kilgore. Delegate Knight. Doug Wanarina. Secretary Merritt. Senator Ruff.
Here.
Todd Settlemyer.
Here.
Robin Selfberger.
Here.
Peter Pinati. Here. Carolyn West. Joe Wilson.
Here.
Debbie Wynn. Vice Chair Kavanaugh.
Great, thank you very much. We now turn to the public comment section of the agenda. We have provided the public with an opportunity to come here today to provide public comment. Did anyone sign up to provide any public comments today?
No.
Okay. We've also have provided a means to provide comments to these proceedings in writing. Do we have any written comments that we've received?
No written comments.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay. If we can go, we're going to move the
Slides. Can you
Slides,
advance
if you
our
could.
slides for us?
to the consent agenda. Keep going. All right, keep going. There we go. Perfect. All right, we have 5 items included in today's consent agenda. Details for each item are provided in the packets. Are there any questions about the consent agenda or items that any member would like removed from the block of consent items? Any questions at all? Okay, now is there a motion to approve the
So
consent
moved.
agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, do you have to call or not?
Yes. Yes, I have a vote from Senator Howell.
Aye.
Thank you. Double check. Delegate Kilgore or Delegate Knight, are you on remotely?
Okay, great. We now want to turn to the director's report, right?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I've got a short summary report, and then I'm going to kick it over to Ms. Donegan. My report just has to do with the proposed conference report. The big picture on that is as follows. We have $60 million allotted in the conference report for the biennium, which is the same as before. Under the conference report, the board wouldn't have the authority to do some reallocation or use money. There are some additional reporting requirements, which we can get into details if needed. There's a task force for biotech and pharma. Also have funding for the new talent pathways of $2.5 million planning grants. And then there is the $27 million recapture that's covered in the boost budget. And I think for those details, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Donegan.
Does anybody have any questions about that item? The one I want to draw to your attention, which I don't think has perhaps been communicated, is this new life science initiative, which DHCD has been asked to help to administer, and there is a role for the Go Virginia board. It is over the biennium, I believe 48 and then 16 million to fund a number of projects. They are described in the budget. It will not be an application process, will not in fact involve the regional councils, but the budget language does indicate there would be a role for the Go Virginia State Board. And of course, you have made a number of investments in these areas that I think were the spark for a number of projects that were described. So we'll bring you more information about that. We're still meeting with some of the partners that were named. That includes VEDP and Chev. We'll be coming back with an update on that progress. And one of those projects is in Roanoke. There's one in UVA. There's some very specific efforts that are going to be funded using those resources. Okay, I'm going to shift over to the unobligated fund balance, and the enrolled budget does include a $27.5 million reversion, if you will, from the Virginia Growth and Opportunity Fund to the general fund. This is the approximate sum of all unobligated funds from fiscal years 19, 20, and 21. And of course, the ERR program was funded using the FY20 appropriation. So the unobligated fund balance was included. It was a point in time capture, and it is still fairly representative of those fund balances. The budget is not descriptive of which funds will be subjected to recapture, but we have prepared 2 recapture scenarios for the board to consider. When the ink is dry on the budget, if this is included, we will obviously have to execute in accordance and return these funds to the general fund. The board may wish to consider alternatives to these recommendations. So let me just share with you the recommendations. The first is what I'll call option 1. On the left-hand column, you see the region. And remember, each year, the Go Virginia State Board is directed to allocate per capita funds based on a formula, based on population, a very specific amount of money. And the Go Virginia Board has one step further created that $1 million floor. So regions 1 through 9, and I've left a separate line for the statewide competitive fund, which is managed and maintained independent from the regional funds. So the first column in yellow represents the total unobligated per capita fund balances from those fiscal years that I've mentioned, and the statewide competitive fund. In total, that's $23.6 million. We do have an unobligated economic resilience and recovery fund balance of about $3.9 million. However, we do also have applications that you are going to be considering today that have been submitted under the provisions of the ERR program, which again, this body directed to will be done at the end of this fiscal year. So this is the last grant round that would have even been eligible for this initiative. So what we've done here is we've laid the pending applications alongside the unobligated fund balance, come up with a projection based on, again, this body's decision about those applications. So the way that option 1 would accomplish the recapture is rescind all of the funds in column 2, if you will, yellow, 23.6. Any of the remaining ERR fund balance after the applications are considered and then use about 1.4 million from the FY22 statewide competitive fund to reach the 27.5. So does anybody have questions? And I've got to just caveat this. This is preliminary. I know there's some folks in the back that maybe there's a decimal point off, and we want to make sure everybody's comfortable with our recollection of these balances. But anybody have questions about this option? And just so you know,
On the
Sure.
ERR balances, that would assume that we would approve what's in the package tonight, correct?
that's correct. This would be with a recommendation to go ahead and consider the applications that are in front of us, which again, the applicants have put a lot of work into developing these proposals. Okay. And then just so you know, there are still FY22 funds available. Okay, we started funding in January any per capita projects out of their FY22 allocation. Some regions have their full allotment still sitting there. But for the most, they are deep into their FY22 money. And in fact, Region 5, with their applications, we will actually have to wait until their FY23 money gets here to fund the 2 projects that are in their stack. So really at this point, very high utilization rates. After this sweep, we'll be able to the per capita applications will not be impacted by this decision. I guess that's what I want to draw a point to. Okay.
So any questions on option 1 before she goes to option 2?
No, it's your option too. I'm looking at this.
Okay.
Question, Sarah. If we had a rewind button, would we do anything differently to prevent a raid on our funds like this?
Yeah, I don't want to use.
We'd spend it faster.
And really, we're proud. This year, we will, after this meeting, I think awarded obligated funds about at level with our annual appropriation. And we actually exceeded our annual appropriation last year. You know, a program like this, I think we do put a lot of emphasis on making sure that the work is good. And I think those who were on the board in the early days recognized that there was a little bit of development, project development that needed to occur. What could we have done? So there is some language in the enabling legislation that wouldn't have necessarily permitted the board to do a recapture and keep the funds within the program, right, to be deployed. I'll use an example, Region 3, that their burn rate is fantastic, and maybe they'd like access to some additional money to create a competitive pool, keep it within the program. There is a provision in the enabling legislation. The board can elect to not provide the annual per capita allotment for non-performance. Now, non-performance, in my mind, could be you are not developing projects at a rate. And so I think if I could have wound back a little bit, there would have been a point in time when I would have said this may be a trigger that the board wants to pull. That's just a comment.
You know, I think the shame of it is that like this GoTech initiative that we have going, it's just now getting legs.
I know.
And as it happens, and it's a big requirement financially.
Yeah.
And there's lots of regions of the state that want it. And so easily, a lot of this money that we have carried forward would be used in a very wise and productive way. But I mean, and I get that. I mean, I've always said that government moves slowly, and programs move slowly, much slower than what I'd like to see. But when they finally catch legs, it's
Yeah.
a lot can happen, and GoTech is just one you know, park developments and so forth. It's a lot of things that are just now beginning to really catch on statewide.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would just like to also make sure all the board members read the letter that our chair sent to the governor about addressing this, which I think really states the case about the fact that I think we've tried to be prudent with taxpayer dollars. There's some history from time to time in the past where agencies have pushed money out the door at the end of the fiscal year just to get it out the door to make sure it's not sitting there. And the fact that we try to make prudent decisions about how we spend the money, I think is having a negative impact. So hopefully this is not over yet. As Yogi Berra would say, it ain't over till it's over. So we'll see what happens.
Yogi might have just showed up to your left there.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
Sorry about that.
No, great to see you.
Okay. So this is scenario one. We'll walk you through some scenarios to support or accommodate the recapture provision in the enrolled budget. So this is option one, which again, in summary, the ERR applications that have already been reviewed and approved by the regional councils would be allowed to move forward. We would then close that program down, do the recapture from these older years, and then make up the difference with the statewide competitive fund. Okay. Option two, basically would just not allow the ERR applications to move forward. This would be a decision. 5 projects would be unfunded, and we just use that full 3.9, which was the unobligated fund balance currently for the ERR program, and combine that with the total unobligated per capita fund balances and the statewide competitive fund unobligated balance of about $5 million. Those two combined would be about $27.5 million.
And under this scenario, we would not consider any of the ERR requests today if we would accept this one, correct?
That's correct. And I just also in the right column, we've tried to kind of estimate or encapsulate the recapture impact at the regional level. So you can see Region 7, which is Northern Virginia, is at 11.8, a pretty good share of that, the statewide competitive fund to follow. And then we've got Region 6, which is Middle Peninsula and Northern, that Fredericksburg, and then the regions there that follow. Richmond is Region 4. I just want to make sure our new members understand. Region 5 is Hampton Roads. Region 8 is the Shenandoah Valley. And Region 9 is Central Virginia, Charlottesville.
But Sarah, this were to end up being less than 27.5 million. I don't know exactly how this is going to play out. Will we just pro rata? If the amount was end up being 24 or 23 instead of 27.5, would we just, whatever approach we apply, we would just pro rata apply that to the 2 different categories?
That's correct. That's what I would recommend. So let's say there is some type of late amendment and the reduction is, or the recapture is less than 27. I would just do a pro rata distribution. What each region represents today as a percentage, apply that to the amount we'd have to return and just run those numbers.
Some of the numbers are the same on both options, others are a little bit different. Is that based on the obligated amount?
No, the unobligated per capita fund balance should be the same. The only difference is the first scenario funded the ERR project applications. And we've got regions 1, 6, 8, and 9 all have applications submitted under those categories.
Chairman,
Yes.
why would we consider it two?
Exactly.
Because I think, sir, everybody should have 2 options.
Sarah, let me ask you both of you and Brian, you have a recommendation, correct?
We do. Yeah, staff would recommend option 1. We do feel when the board made the decision to create the ERR program and then extend it through the end of this fiscal year, it was for good reason, and the regions have been moving forward in good faith to develop these applications. Staff has reviewed them. You'll see some of the recommendations have some adjustments in the actual disbursement, but that is our recommendation, sir.
Other questions or comments? Because I want to see if there's a motion to support option 1, but before doing that, just any general questions for either Sarah or Brian? Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, before you, sir, I may abstain just because I may have to take some future action.
That's fair,
So-
sir.
Just to let you all know, as Vice Chairman of Appropriations, I probably want to abstain.
Very fair.
Okay,
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Okay, is there a motion to support option 1? Support option. Second. All right, any other discussion? Comments? Are they all in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, Andrew, you have to.
Senator Howell?
I'm going to abstain since it's aimed at me.
Noted. Senator Howell's abstained.
May have some more.
Did anybody else come on other than Senator Howell? Are we aware? Yeah, okay. Okay. All right, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move now to the presentation of the applications that were reviewed for this round. I know Sarah's going to thank a lot of board members, but I will also just say thank you to all the board members that participated in the review of these applications. Sometimes these can be pretty lengthy and a spirited conversation discussion. So thank you in advance for doing all that, Sarah. And thank you too, Sarah.
Good. So we received 14 applications this cycle. There were 10 per capita implementation projects. We'll discuss those in more detail. There were 5 economic resilience and recovery program applications received. As part of the full review and evaluation, we formed work groups just for, in particular, the new members. These applications go through kind of a double vetting process. They are reviewed and approved by the regional council before they are submitted to the state board for consideration. Once received by DHCD, we do a technical review of the applications, and then we have work groups. And I'd just like to note the members who supported this process this time around. Nancy Agee, Ben Davenport, Jim Dyke, Haywood Fralin, Leah Freemal, who provided written comment, Doug Wanarina, Robin Sullenberger, Pia Trigiani, Marilyn West, also providing written comment, Joe Wilson, and Debbie Wynn. This is a 2-week process, so this is not something we spend a couple minutes skimming. The folks who've committed to participate in these sessions are usually committing at least a half day of their lives to be involved, so we do appreciate it. We had a number of subject matter experts this time around. Annie Arnest, Industrial Revitalization Fund Program Manager with DHCD. We had Sean Avery, who's the President and CEO of the Hampton Workforce Council. Conaway Haskins, who's the VP at the Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, John Loftus, manager at VEDP, Debbie Melvin, also a VEDP, Virginia Community College System, Tim Stuller, VP of Talent Solutions, VEDP, and also Stephen Burson, who's a manager at VDAX, the Virginia Department for Agriculture and Consumer Services.
That's great. Great
Yep.
participation for VDP.
Yes, very. We're really working hard to be really collaborative with our agency partners. Okay, development. We've got 1 from sites and infrastructure and 3 that are in that startup ecosystem investment strategy. Please note the staff recommendations to either approve with contingency, and we do have a number of applications in this stack that we are recommending a deferral. A deferral is not a denial. In most every case, if it's a deferral, the application was either deficient in terms of its documentation. I'll use match documentation as an example. Or we feel that the proposal needs a little more refinement to make sure it's driving towards the outcomes that this board has said are important, and principally creating higher paying jobs in those targeted industry sectors, encouraging regional collaboration, and really working to grow and diversify regional economies. So the first application I'd like to share with you is a project called MEET. This, in fact, was an application that was deferred and has come back to us, and I'll just speak freely here. I think it's a better application. The participating localities include the City of Chesapeake, the City of Hampton, the City of Newport News, and the City of Norfolk Public Schools, as well as Suffolk. ODU Research Foundation is the applicant. They're requesting a little over $1 million to build an online training delivery platform and 3 maritime trade courses in sheet metal fabrication, pipe fitting, welding. And they've added this time around an entry-level fiber optic technician program that they will be executing in partnership with New College Institute. This is an interesting addition because not only does it serve the maritime industry, but it also serves the needs of the broadband industry. And of course, we're going through a massive deployment of fiber in Virginia. And so these trained technicians would be able to benefit from this online course offering as well. And they have some industry partners lined up to help with that as well. So this is going to extend and build on a project that was previously funded called GOVa MAP. They are proposing to create at least 2 online maritime courses, as well as the fiber optic technician course. They're creating educational games and courses. They will be training 390 students within 3 years, training 706 students within 5 years. This project was deferred in June of last year. The applicant has addressed all of the questions posed by the work group in DHCD, and we are recommending approval of this project. We do need to qualify some match. They've received a Department of Defense grant actually to extend the GOTech program to Region 5, and they have committed a portion of that grant as match for this project. They see very close alignment between the course development and the online platform, or the curriculum development rather, and GOTech. The next project is called.
Any questions?
Thank
We're
you.
going to go through these, and we'll come back and vote in the block. If somebody wants to remove it for purposes of consideration, we'll do that. But as we go, any questions for Sarah?
Not a question, but just observation. I'm glad to see the inclusion of the initiative focused on broadband, because you may well know in the State Chamber's Blueprint 2030, we talked about the fact that it's great that we're doing a lot in broadband, but we don't have enough workers around, and to see effort to try to address that, I think is very important. So I'm glad to see that.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Sarah, what did you say about the Department of Defense?
So Hampton Roads ODU was actually just recently received a Department of Defense grant to help as well bolster their regional training capacity in the maritime industry. All Go Virginia projects require a 1-to-1 match unless given consideration by the board. As matched, this particular applicant has committed a portion of those grant funds will be expended on this initiative. We just need to qualify that that is allowable, that their funder will allow them to use those resources for this project. Sometimes they're encumbered, and we just need to make sure that they're not.
Okay, thank
you. Okay, thank you, Todd. I will try to pause between each project. All right, the next project is coming to us from Region 7. This project is called Nano Imagine. George Mason University is requesting $2.5 million to catalyze the growth of Virginia's nanotech sector. They're going to provide hands-on workforce training and support the launch and startup of high-tech nano companies. The outcomes you can see there, 185 new jobs created by year 3, 233 by year 5. And just for folks who may be new, or for folks that have been around, when we calculate return on investment, it really is a fiscal return to the Commonwealth. It is the most conservative way to think about return. We don't look at secondary jobs or tertiary jobs, or the jobs associated with the person who's going to cut the hair of the nanotech worker. And so we're looking for a positive return at various points in time, and 3 and 5 years is our consideration.
So go indirect or introduced, things of that nature.
Thank you. You're exactly right. So this is kind of an exciting initiative. They're going to be creating a clean room. There's lots of linkages and connections to other Go Virginia funded projects, including the Fab Lab at Northern Virginia Community College. There is some impressive industry partnerships here, including Micron. And others who are in this space, and for that reason, we are recommending approval of this project.
Any questions on that one? Comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to note, I think this is the first application that the newly formed Northern Virginia Economic Development Alliance has fully endorsed on behalf of the members. So we're really excited about that. Okay. Any questions? And this is an industry that's in their growth and diversification plan. Okay, the next project is called the Accelerating Advanced Manufacturing Workforce. Laurel Ridge Community College, which was formerly known as Lord Fairfax Community College, they're requesting $530,000. They are working on a pipeline strategy to support area manufacturers. They are actually partnering with the National Coalition of Certification Centers to offer their advanced manufacturing sector focused training. There are a number of companies, including 3M, Trane, Dremel, Snap-on Tools, Lincoln Electric. And there was really broad industry support for this particular initiative. And you can see the localities include Frederick County, Shenandoah County, and Winchester. And these letters of support, as well as match, came from the economic development offices, which we're certainly encouraged by. You can see the outcomes, very impressive for the investment. 336 students trained, 300 credentials awarded, 288 jobs filled. And of course, this is enduring capacity. It is going to continue to produce students after the grant period. Any questions about that one? All right, moving on then, next application. The next application is called the Talent Supply Connector. This is coming to us from Region 9, Charlottesville region. Virginia Career Works Piedmont region is requesting $391,528 to develop a sector-focused project. They had previously applied for funds to do a feasibility study or a pilot project, and that labor sector strategy report recommended this solution. They're going to develop a career pathway guide for employers. They're going to develop a region-wide database of relevant training offerings. They're going to do an annual business survey and work to expand work-based learning opportunities. The counties of Culpeper, Greene, Louisa, Madison, and Nelson are on this application. And they are going to be working to establish sustainable regional employer coalitions, specifically around light manufacturing and food and beverage manufacturing. And that is part of their year one goal. For folks that were at the retreat, you may remember our friend from the U.S. Chamber that talked about the importance of building these sector these sector coalitions to talk about workforce. So I think this is a really interesting idea. They're going to be focused on internships, 180 new internships for high school and community college students. They would like to fill 90 jobs as a result of this effort in light manufacturing, food and beverage manufacturing, and serve up to 40 businesses combined. We recommend approval for this project.
Questions, comments?
Thank you. The next application is also from Region 9. This is called the Tech Talent Retention Project. The Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development, which is that region's regional economic development organization, is requesting $370,000 to retain college graduates, specifically at UVA, to help them launch their careers within Central Virginia. And also to provide a talent pipeline for higher paying jobs in technology fields in Region 9 aligned targeted sectors. They propose to use undergraduate work study students led by a talent director. They would like to raise awareness of local businesses through student thought leaders. Again, this is responding to something that's quite frankly not unique to UVA, but college students are often insulated or unaware of the employment opportunities right in their backyard, right? They're on campus and they're in school. So they're hoping to address that. They're going to be working through some partnerships, primarily membership organizations and others who have connections to tech-enabled companies that would benefit from some of these introductions. City of Charlottesville, the counties of Albemarle, Culpeper, Louisa, Madison, Nelson. They estimate that this initiative will create up to 55 new jobs, primarily through student retention and connection to local employment opportunities, and serve 100 businesses. Based on work group discussion and application review, staff is recommending that this project be deferred. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I was on the review panel and I concur with your recommendation.
Thank you, Jim. We think that there is an idea there. There wasn't a super strong signal of employer demand for this particular initiative. I think we just want to make sure that there's a strategy here. The other thing was sustainability. So the majority of the requested funds would be used to support staff salaries. They have a fundraising strategy. I think we'd just like to see that sustainability strategy a bit more developed.
Just like the board has said is important, sustainability post-funding.
Yes, exactly. Thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sarah, the fact the discussion did not include community college, does that hint that they really had not reached out to either the rest of the education world or the private sector?
Yeah, I mean, our read on the application was it was fairly connected to UVA and UVA students. I do think that the review committee was hungry for a little bit of extension, and I think that the applicants may see the benefit of thinking more broadly, students from community colleges, for example. And I think in talking with employers, right, not every job that's challenging to fill needs a four-year degree to fill it. I think that the review committee was hungry to see a little bit more of an
Yeah.
a different approach.
Sarah has very diplomatically stated the case clearly.
The demand signal part's important, so I'm glad you emphasize that. It's not, you haven't seen it, so.
Okay. The next project is called Technology Academies for Fauquier and Rappahannock. Laurel Ridge Community College, again, Lord Fairfax Community College, is requesting $402,000 to develop a technology academy that will offer college-level courses in robotics and drones to Rappahannock and Fauquier County High School students, as well as adult learners. So the primary drone course will present aeronautical knowledge required for FAA approval commercial operations as a remote pilot. Students will be able to earn career study certificates for small unmanned aircraft system flight operator and technician positions that would then prepare them to operate and maintain FAA approved drones for commercial operations. There are a number of other courses. The college is committed to working with 6 local businesses to establish internships and apprenticeship opportunities, as well as supervision and coordination of student participation. In terms of outcomes, you can see them listed here. 69 jobs filled, 90 students trained, 6 internships created, new credentialing programs, credentials awarded, and 80 students enrolled as a result in dual enrollment programs. We do recommend this project for approval. I will tell you from staff's perspective, when an applicant comes forward, and this really is kind of an emerging technology, the industry target for this application was food and beverage manufacturing, which we see by extension as being agriculture, right, in this area. So staff is very keen to emphasize that employers, if there is not demand, then employers need to be educated on the benefits of using drone or robotic technology in their processes. And so we would like that included as a milestone to make sure that as they're developing these students, that they're also developing an understanding amongst area businesses about the benefits of adopting these technologies.
My only question is with Virginia Tech has become, center of excellence around drones. Is there any way to steal some of their, not steal, but partner with from a curriculum standpoint? Did they have any conversation about them, even though it's not within the specific region?
Yeah, we did specifically. In fact, I think you mentioned it here, Mountain Empire and Dabney Lancaster previously had drone programs, and we strongly recommended that they coordinate with them.
Yeah.
Certainly tech can be part of it.
Absolutely. I think that demand is already here. It's just latent and they don't know they need it yet. So this is an education process in addition to
Yeah, to help those businesses be more competitive, right? That's the thinking.
One question about the education campaign was the recommendation to add like measures of meetings and metrics around that campaign part
Yes.
too?
Yeah. So we want to make sure that industry advisory committee, the 6 businesses that they mentioned, and there were a number of support letters, and even from non-agricultural businesses. I think a quarry operator felt that would be beneficial for them to, even do things as subtle as patrolling for rock slides and making sure that the quarry's integrity was good. So yes, I just think that concurrent with developing students, we need to work with businesses to develop, I don't want to say develop demand, but stronger demand signal through education.
Any questions, other questions or comments about them?
I'd just say that I know at the Institute of Gamble, we have a program that we're doing with drone to do analysis of what's going on in crops.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, it's going on everywhere. You can greatly target use less chemicals, less fertilizer, you can direct,
Yeah.
and
I think in some of these industries where we do have a labor shortage, I mean, especially for farm workers and folks, this would be a way to, like you say, to monitor crops, monitor for disease. I think about grapes in Charlottesville, for example. I mean, certainly technology is good enough. You could get a visual without needing to have a staff of folks walking the lines.
Give them the cost of fertilizer. That's a good thing right now. It's
Yeah.
going up. That's going up.
target.
Okay.
That's great. Okay, so those are the workforce
Yes.
development.
I am.
Sites,
Sites.
infrastructure. Okay.
Thank you. So there's a sites project in Region 5, Hampton Roads Economic Development Site Readiness Project. This is a large request, $3.75 million to complete due diligent work for 2 sites in Region 5 and helping to accelerate the development to Tier 4 and to do a characterization around a 3rd site. All of these sites, 2 of these sites, excuse me, are less in total than 100 acres. The Three Oaks Industrial site in the city of Chesapeake, Southampton Commerce and Logistics Center is 80 acres. And there is a 203-acre tract in Southampton County, about 80 acres of which is developable, that will be characterized. All these properties are controlled either through ownership or option, which is always favorable. The applicants have indicated that they believe once fully loaded that the sites could support the creation of as many as 400 jobs. We only request job creation as an outcome for sites that are very close to Tier 4 or 5, meaning they are market ready. And we believe that during the grant period or some reasonable period, if there's a marketing strategy in place and the sites are good, then they will attract a user. So that's for information purposes more than anything. We've got great match in this project. You can see over $10 million. All of that is local, either through the site acquisition or the costs associated with securing rights through an option agreement. So the total budget for this project is 14.2, and you can see Go Virginia Region 5 is going in at about 3.7 million. We recommend this project for approval. I will let you know that with the funding of this project in Region 5 and the MEET application, they will need to access their FY23 allocation. And of course, until we get a signed budget, we would not enter into contract here. So we approve it with that contingency. And our base level budget is secure in the enrolled budget. So I do just want to reemphasize that point. We've talked about the changes, but not the sameness. So
Questions or comments on that one?
If I could ask, on things like site selection, how integrated are you with the strategies and also in the marketing of your site, Go Virginia sites versus what's in the rest of the portfolio?
yeah. So Go Virginia does not take any responsibility for marketing. What we try to do is create a larger portfolio of business-ready sites. Region 5, and in terms of integration, so we always include VDP on our review committee. Our sites guidelines actually recommend that regions have a VDP staff member involved in the development of their application. Region 5 goes one step further. They have a very data-driven system. They actually use the results of VDP's site characterization initiative, which was completed a few years ago. And what that helps them do is prioritize the sites that are most developable, that are most marketable, and then they use a 3rd evaluation criteria, which is really most cost-effective to develop. So it's a composite. They also bring in private developers. So they don't just use the data, they actually bring in people that are involved in these transactions just to make sure they're getting it right. So that's a description of the process. We are always, very cognizant and work closely with those partners.
Great question and a great.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please.
Sarah, your assessment and recommendation on this, is it based also on the Go Virginia dollars, 3.7 million and 400 jobs created and the cost per job? Do you do that analysis also?
We do not, sir, but we do, well, I say that. We know what industries would be suitable, likely for these sites, and we can calculate an average wage for that industry. So we can build an estimation if the sites were fully loaded, how many jobs they would carry. But in terms of Go Virginia performance outcomes for sites projects, we're looking at the number of acres that are advanced a tier. We use VDP's site readiness tiering system. And so we're trying to increase the number of sites and obviously the total acreage within a region. But we do use the 400 jobs to come up with an approximation of what that site could produce in terms of fiscal impact to the Commonwealth.
Pretty good bang for the buck at $9,300
Yes,
per job.
Thank you
per
for-
job. So that's not, just curious.
thanks for running that math. Yeah. And these, these localities have made a huge commitment in site acquisition and strong intention to acquire the Beal Farm.
Sir, to add to Secretary Cummings' comment, I had an extensive conversation with Jay Langston and Chinook Valley Partnership recently about the site development process. We funded, well, I believe it was 9 sites in the valley.
That's correct.
And we've heard from the EDP over and over about the lack of available sites. So what Jay basically said is that he's already seeing immediate dividends from the enhancement of these particular sites, even though they aren't quite up to par yet. They're still growing additional interest just because they know that process is underway. So it's already having immediate dividends.
Any other comments or questions?
Chairman, I would say also, collaborate, making significant investment in our port.
Yes, sir.
And the proximity of these sites to our port, very attractive.
Very strategic.
And furthermore, if you break that down to 3 sites, you're only at about $3,000.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think it's a worthy investment.
Thank you. And I will say Hampton Roads is thinking critically. They are pretty stock full up and around the port. There's not a lot of new developable real estate. So they are thinking about ways to bring some of that activity off the port and further inland. And I do think these sites were selected in part because of their proximity to the port. And again, they've been characterized by a third party as being highly likely, desirable from a development perspective. And so this will help move those forward.
Got a question or comments?
Yeah.
Comment, we do have $150 million in the budget for business sites. And that was all retained in the budget when we worked at the conference.
That is terrific.
Yeah.
Very grateful to all of you, the council, and the administration.
Here.
Good. Okay, so we've got 3 now, startup ecosystem investment strategies. So if you remember, Go Virginia's got 4 different strategies that can be used to support the growth and development of a particular industry sector. These are coming. The first one is an application that was originally deferred. The organization is called Vector Space. They are in Lynchburg. They're requesting $324,000 to implement some expanded programming and install equipment in what's called a maker space. And so this is a public space. Sometimes membership is required, but they're doing a couple things here. So they're supporting entrepreneurship. And then they're also running some very interesting workforce development programs that focus on underserved individuals, primarily women, and helping them move into the manufacturing industry. They've, since the original application, done a couple things I'd just like to bring to note. They've increased their outcomes over that 3-year period. And again, the jobs filled are just based on the individuals who are going through their workforce training program. The number of businesses launched and the total number of existing businesses served. Vector Space has a membership today of over 200 individuals. Some of them are hobbyists, some of them are entrepreneurs that are operating out of their garage, and this type of space allows them to do prototyping, design work, and things they may not have equipment to do at home. Central Virginia Community College, again, is going to look at creating some articulation agreements, if you will, between the Women in Welding program and a community college experience. Bedford, Campbell counties and the city of Lynchburg are partners in this project, and the city is funding primarily the entrepreneurship components, offering a co-starters program experience for entrepreneurs. We believe the applicant has addressed the question posed by the work group, and staff is recommending this application for approval.
Questions or comments?
Just one comment, Chair. I was on the original work group when this application came through, and I agreed with the deferment at the time, but I'm very excited to see it back because I think the focus on skilling women in this space, but also having them become business owners themselves is unique and innovative and much needed. So I'm excited to see it back.
Okay. The next application is coming to us from Region 7. It's called Accelerate 2023-2024. They're requesting George Mason University $5,304 to strengthen and advance Northern Virginia as a center of excellence for innovative emerging technologies. This will benefit the regional community and promote economic growth by drawing or attracting capital from around the country. And these events that are being proposed would showcase the top tech companies in Virginia. Accelerate is actually a year-long process of engaging tech entrepreneurs, investors, and ecosystem partners. The culminating event is an investor conference, if you will, which offers students and high-growth startups an opportunity to showcase their business ideas and really to bring potential investors and funders from all across the country to Northern Virginia. Participating localities include the counties of Arlington and Fairfax. They are projecting as many as 100 new jobs created. This is a request for 2 years worth of activity, meaning a culminating event this year and next year. They estimate that they'll raise up to $50 million in capital on behalf of or for the companies that participate and engage more than 100 entrepreneurs. This event has been held previously. There was an Accelerate 2022. Based on the work group discussion application review, we are recommending this project be deferred. We don't have the results from the 2022 event firmly in hand, and much of the match that was committed in the application we could not qualify. Meaning they had some verbal commitments and other things. We still think this is a worthwhile project, very much in line with what Northern Virginia is trying to do to reposition itself economically, but recommended deferral for those reasons.
Questions or comments, sir?
Okay. The next was a per capita application. The Carver Food Business Incubator, Culpeper County is requesting $199,000 to support and scale existing Region 9 food and beverage manufacturing companies, support the development of new manufactured products to be sold across state lines. They are revitalizing the former George Washington Carver Regional High School and turning it into an education, production, research, and training hub. They aim to complete a community kitchen, currently under construction. Participating localities include Orange, Rappahannock, Fauquier, and the town of Culpeper. They estimate they'll create as many as 173 new jobs during the grant period, serving 68 existing businesses, helping those firms launch 67 new products to the marketplace, and increase participating company sales by 15%. We are recommending that this project be deferred. Again, we want to make sure that there is demonstrated demand from producers and small-scale food manufacturers to support the endeavor.
Yes, please.
Sarah, do we ever ask what we anticipate the pay for those jobs to be?
That's,
Qualify that.
we do, sir. So we actually do some research on our own to make sure. So this particular industry, food and beverage manufacturing, and if we take a step back and get closer to the farm, agriculture, it does tend to be lower paying. The value added that's applied here, so think of specialty food products. That's really what we're talking about, and I think the earning potential could be greater than the average in the marketplace. But we do that industry selection, and of course, Go Virginia is working to support the creation of higher wage jobs. We believe that because of the value-added processes and business coaching, that it's going to take what may look like an average job in food manufacturing and turn it into a better than average job in a real business with some market reach.
So Sarah, that is an area where agriculture is expanding rapidly, as you well know.
Yeah.
We have a somewhat similar project that you're going to recommend for approval in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
The critical mass issue is easy to explain.
Yes.
with an urban area, but in this area where that's kind of things happening in more rural areas, I know I sound like a broken record here, but doing things to enhance the capacity to expand like that in rural areas is incredibly critical. So I hope you will work hard to make that happen in
Yes.
some form.
Yes. And we do have DHCD, another active project with this particular applicant. There was an IRF project application, about a $500,000 request to support the rehabilitation and conversion of the school into the ag center. So we are monitoring that aspect of this project as well. I think we just, want again to get a little bit bigger commitment from businesses, which is not dissimilar from the recommendation that this body provided with regards to the Buena Vista Ag Innovation Center.
Right.
To get some more tenant commitments.
No, and I do agree
Yeah.
with that.
Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay, so there are 10 per capita applications. Staff of the board of work groups are recommending approval of 7 and deferral of 3. Is there any board member that would like to take one of the applications out and not vote on it with the group? Okay, is there a motion to accept staff and board group recommendations?
So move.
Is there a second? Okay, any other discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Andrea?
Senator Howe, can I have your vote remotely?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
while we're in the phase between those, some of these are maturing now,
Yes.
and do we have any record of how they're doing as to what they said their outcome?
This is a great question. So once an award is made by this body, so we move into a contract phase, applicants contractually commit to certain outcomes, and we record that commitment in the book virtually. And then they're required to report quarterly against those goals. So we have 2 things, Senator. We have the work in progress achieved to date, and then we've had about 92 projects that have not just matured, but they've what I call hard closed and provided a performance closeout. We just did an analysis, and I should have brought this slide to you. But in all of those cases where we've got a closed project, they outperformed almost to a project their commitment. And we're monitoring that on a quarterly basis. Our grants are reimbursement based, which means we don't take somebody a big check. We're monitoring, we're releasing those funds as the match is expended. So we really are a co-funder. We've got lots of controls in place if it looks like a project is not moving forward. And we have had some, to be candid, through the pandemic. We've had to do some extensions when these things required people to come together, for example. So I will commit at our September meeting to bring you those achieved results, right? Committed versus actually accomplished.
That's a great question. That's part of the accountability, holding ourselves accountable for the stewards for the dollars that are being spent. So thank you for raising that.
Yes. Good.
Okay, we're going to move to the economic resilience and recovery applications here.
Thank you. And I'm going to move through these very quickly. The first one is coming from Region 1, the United Way of Southwest Virginia. They are launching a project called the Employer Sponsored Child Care Benefit 2022. They're requesting $269,000 to specifically help manufacturers in the region fill open jobs. They'd like to increase the labor force participation rate by removing a barrier to participation, which is the lack of child care in the region. What's exciting here is there are a group of employers that have committed to pilot a new employee-sponsored benefit program. And so these employers are maybe for the first time ever stepping up to consider offering a cash benefit to individuals to assist in acquiring child care and encouragement to get back in the labor force if that was the reason they weren't participating. In terms of outcomes, we've got 25 businesses participating on committees, engaged in project activities. We did have a fair number of letters of support. As many as 4 businesses participating in the pilot, and they really want to test the model. Will offering this benefit be an inducement two individuals to come back to work. But it's not that just that. United Way has amazing relationships with over 200 childcare service providers in the region. And they would really like to help expand the capacity of that network through a shared service alliance. The Go Virginia funds would really be used to help support the United Way in acting as a convener, project coordinator, and to develop the shared service alliance. They believe that just during this pilot project, as many as 76 jobs could be filled. Again, we emphasize the focus on reentry, not from being incarcerated. I shouldn't use that term, but reentering the workforce being really a principal driver. So we do recommend this application for approval.
I just like,
Sure.
there.
Jump in there. Go, please.
I think it's a great program. The 400,000, where does that come from?
So the combination of the 400, Senator, comes from philanthropy and from the companies that are going to be participating in the project. I want to pull the budget.
So no state budget.
Now, full disclosure, and Mr. Travis Staton is here in the audience with us. They have requested and received additional state resources to do things that I do believe are adjacent to this application. And if the group would allow, Travis could address that question.
Sure.
Yes?
Please come up.
So I think the question the senator has is about any other state funds that may be going to support this effort or an adjacent.
So currently we manage a multi-million-dollar portfolio and service the Ready Regions Hub with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation and the Department of Education, really working to increase the supply and accessibility of the providers through workforce development, childcare expansion. We also have Senator Dillion was placed $3.5 million in this budget of ARPA funds in order to help us expand the slots of the centers. But we also have to work on the affordability side of the employee and the employers. So this is a public-private partnership where the employers are putting up the resources, a private foundation is matching with resources, and then the objective is over 2 years, we'll see the retention rates and hiring rates improve in addition to the expansions we're seeing on our side. And then at the end of that 2-year period, those employers will decide to keep moving forward with their contributions or up their contributions, and our role is to take other resources and go to the next employer, where eventually we get all of our employers offering this benefit as part of their hiring packages.
Hold on a second. Does that address your question?
United Way of Southwest Virginia.
I did, but I just wanted to make sure that we had all the working parts.
Sure.
Okay.
Jeff, please.
Yes. I was just going to say, don't be fooled by United Way. This is not a normal United Way. Travis and his organization is a big organization that's doing enormous, great things for Southwest Virginia, and basically covers Southwest Virginia like you. He has many different programs going.
You got to get that quote. Cover Southwest Virginia like they do. That's a good one. Yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this is tremendous. I have always been an advocate for early childhood education. In fact, I've always said if I could only invest in one program in education, this would be it. And this ties into our whole, this is the beginning of the pipeline. And to get the employers to finally recognize this, COVID, we can thank COVID for that. They realize how important childcare is. And as you mentioned, it is a great way of getting more people back into the workforce, especially women. And so I think this is a great program. And I also would take the opportunity to thank the General Assembly and the administration putting more money into early childhood to move this thing along. And so I think this is a win-win for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, sir, please.
I have a question, Travis.
Travis, hold on. Come back.
Does this totally take away any cost share to the employee? Just basically employer and United Way paying for their child care? Do they have a cost share?
The employee will have skin in the game as well.
So what magnitude can you?
So
what percentage
we're
of that?
looking at potentially $50 a week from the employer, $50 a week from United Way of Southwest Virginia and our funds. And then the employee will probably end up in the $25 to $50 a week for their fund. So the benefit to the employee and not with Go Virginia funds will be the other monies will be approximately $5,200 benefit. And an average manufacturing job in our regions, let's say $37,000, $38,000. So that's huge in order to get them to come back to work.
So if that's sustainable going forward, that's not a very costly to the employee at $25. Once these funds were expended, and you know, the budget monies may not be there in the future years.
We have a lot of employers that are interested in piloting, but of those, the $50, 50%, say, of our cost share with them, they are, I think when they see their retention rates go up and their hiring rates go up, they will increase that cost share on their side. But this is to get them to at least establish a program, test the water, and see if it really does work, if they put that as their benefit package to help recruit and retain employees.
I understand this is a huge problem statewide. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. JJ, comment?
Yeah, I got a question. Can you point to a area or can you, in that way, give us a good example where this has worked?
So there are several groups nationally that are participating in things like this. Publix, a grocery store chain that's headquartered down in Florida, does something like this. Dollywood in Sevierville, Tennessee does something like this to help with their employees and does cost sharing. So we've looked at those models. We'll also be working with our public and private sectors. There's opportunity for employers to even receive about a 25 to 20% tax credit for their contribution and participating. So we'll be working with all kinds of national experts to make sure we design and customize that program to those employers' needs and participation levels, and then track every bit of data to really see if this does improve those hiring and retention rates. But yes, it has been done in other parts of the country. And I think in the longer haul, it'll be something that, like we do health insurance, that one day, hopefully, we do child care benefits as well.
Chairman, I have one more question.
Last question.
We kicked off pilot programs on some of the community colleges down there a few years ago to try to upgrade the skills of child care employees. Are you familiar with that, or is there any connection with?
Yes, we're very much in partnership with the Virginia Early Childhood Foundation, the Davenport Institute, all kinds of other partnerships in order to increase the workforce. Thank
you. Thank you. And I just want to restate, Delegate Austin, no state funds will be going to support the subsidy, the benefit that Travis just described. That will be cost covered by the philanthropic contribution and employers. So I do want to make sure we noted that. Okay. The next project is called Next Gen Nurses. This comes to us from Region 8, Shenandoah Valley. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you. They're requesting $496,000 to address some workforce shortages that have really been exacerbated by the pandemic. So that is what they are working to mitigate is this shortage in workforce. Shenandoah University, Valley Health, the Virginia Department of Health, Lord Fairfax District, and regional localities, they have come together and developed an approach related to the nursing shortage. They would like to begin recruiting retired nurses, training them through a preceptor training curriculum which they will be developing, and also investing in some simulation labs that will increase their ability to train nurses for placement. Participating localities include Page, Shenandoah, Warren. The outcomes are listed here. Based on the work group discussion, we are recommending funding at a reduced level of $306,000. The original request included $190,000 to pay the salaries of the nurse preceptors, and that's a cost that would traditionally be borne by Valley Health and or Shenandoah University, and we feel that's probably appropriately set. So we are excited about this project. The Virginia Hospital Healthcare Association has come on board in advisory capacity. So we also think there's going to be some learnings. The preceptor curriculum will be available to anyone who requests it across the Commonwealth. So again, to the degree the lack of preceptors, which means you can't get the clinical rotations, it is a barrier certainly to not just continuing to grow our nursing workforce, but backfilling. We have had a lot of folks leave the field. We recommend this for approval.
Questions, comments?
The next one is called Beacon's Kitchen, New Hill Development Corp. They're requesting $189,000 to stabilize existing food and beverage businesses still recovering from the pandemic. They are going to open 11,500 square foot shared commercial kitchen incubator to provide food entrepreneurs with space to produce, package, store, and distribute tradable manufactured products. They estimate that as many as 77 new jobs could be created, 28 new businesses, 30 new tradable food products produced, 40 businesses served, an increase in sales. We do recommend approval of this project. I just will note Region Council also approved this as a per capita project in the event the ERR funds were not available.
Skip one.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I apologize. They were on the right slide. This is coming from Region 6, Rappahannock Germanna Community College. Two community colleges are proposing to come together. They're requesting $354,000 to address healthcare shortages, specifically in the patient care technician category. So they have programs in nurses aid and medical assisting. They want to create this new hybrid credential. They have the participating localities, letters of support from Essex, Gloucester, Spotsylvania, Stafford, the city of Fredericksburg. Based on the work group discussion and a more detailed budget provided by the applicant, we recommend funding at a reduced award amount of no more than $306,000. Again, contingent on the availability of resources and the decision just made by this body. I think we're in good shape. We also believe this program is positioned well and would be eligible to be approved for fast forward funding. So that is an opportunity for non-credit workforce training to have programs approved, and then students can then receive state monies to take those courses. We think that's important for sustainability. So that's our recommendation on that one. It's a little bit off our norm.
Questions or comments on that one? Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
go back.
please.
Why was the dollar amount reduced?
They had a position in there, Senator Ruff, a student advisor, a career coach, which we didn't think was critical to the delivery of the actual program.
Any other questions or comments? So there are 4 recommendations by staff for approval. Does anybody want anything broken out? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve those recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Take it up, virtual vote from Senator Howell.
Aye.
All right, welcome Secretary Merritt.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, sir.
All right, we have one more. This was actually under the ERR program. We can administratively approve projects that are $100,000 or less, but because of uncertainty around the budget, the decision you made earlier about allowing the 5 applications to move forward, this is one of the applications that was in that stack for consideration. This is really the extension of an existing initiative called the Small Business Resiliency Team. Harrisonburg Economic Development, Frederick County, Shenandoah, Lord Fairfax Small Business Development Center. They are going to extend their existing efforts, serve and support another 60 businesses inside those localities. So typically this would be administratively approved. It's being presented to you because of the uncertainty and the recapture potentiality. We do recommend the approval of this project contingent on the availability of funds.
Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a misprint on that? Total budget,
$100,000.
we're putting in $100,000, $50,000 matching fund, $43,000. Local money. Sounds more like $200,000.
Let me look and see the total budget, sir. I apologize.
The local part of the match, always part of the match.
The local match is inclusive.
Inclusive, right. Of the 55, 40 of it is local.
That's a little misleading.
Of the matching funds, 55, the local is 43.5. I agree, sir. We could formate that a little. Okay. All right.
All right, you need a motion to approve that one, please. So moved. For second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any? No? Senator Howe?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right.
That's great.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we're going to move the last 35 minutes or so of the meeting. We're going to talk about talent pathway programs. So we're going to have to shrink that time down a little bit because we can get through these.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce some special guests that we have as part of the Virginia panel presentation that we prepared for today that's focused on the regional talent pathway programs. They will be sharing their projects funded through Go Virginia and their impact on the Commonwealth of Virginia. Their bios are up in the PowerPoint slides, hopefully. We have Sean Avery, who currently serves as the president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Workforce Council in Go Virginia Region 5. Sean, raise your hand. There you go. Thank you very much. We have Julie Brown, Director of Advanced Learning at the Institute of Advanced Learning and Research in Go Virginia Region 3 in Southside. Please raise your hand. Julie? Ah, perfect. Okay, all right, all right. Then we have Nick Rosita. Did I pronounce that correctly? That was good. That was close. Stottlemeyer's tough like Rosita. All right. Supervisor for Computer Science at Loudoun County Public Schools in Go Virginia Region 7. And then finally, we have Lori Martin, STEAM CT Coordinator for Chesapeake Public Schools in Go Virginia Region 5, representing these projects. So Andrew's going to moderate some questions to guide the discussion about these projects. So Andrea?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? I might not need to go to
Now.
So just to give you an overview, Sarah gave an amazing review of our town development investment strategy at our retreat, you may remember. So I updated this slide because I just thought, we should know again that we have a total of 93 projects in our workforce development, the town development strategy, and over 34 million in investment. So it's been a huge investment of Go Virginia in this slide. And really what we're thinking about when we're talking about pipelines is really building new capacity in the state of Virginia that's going to create a larger pool of qualified workers. And we're trying to meet unmet employer demand, and we're addressing the needs and skills that are emerging in these town pools. We're really focusing on certain occupations and certain industry sectors that are identified in each of our regions with diversification. And so I'm really excited to have some very exciting projects to share with you. We have some wonderful speakers that Todd already introduced. And so I'm just gonna give them some questions and we're gonna let them just take over. And we'll also hopefully have time for you all to have some questions too. I know we're running a little bit more. So I am gonna start with Sean Avery, only because his last name begins with A.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And really for all the projects, I want to hear the elevator pitch for your project. Why did we, what do we want to hear about your project? And then really, how is this Virginia, why is it supporting your GOV plan for your region? So
I'll go ahead and start. So my quick elevator speech is, why did we do this talent pipeline and develop this targeted talent pipeline around maritime? Is that for 26,000. That's how many job openings we're going to have in the maritime offshore wind infrastructure field in the next 4 to 5 years. And we're just not producing any of those numbers close to that. And so what we took on before pre-COVID was to really develop a targeted talent pipeline in the maritime industry. When I say maritime industry, I mean anything that touches the water, from the ports, logistics, the shipbuilding, ship repair, the tunnels, the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and any other project, as well as the burgeoning the new offshore wind industry that's coming our way. And so really our targeted talent pipeline we see as a model for us of how we can bring together the demand side of what the needs are, and then really tune in our supply side and make sure that they are on target to meet those needs, both at the educational level, but through our military recruitment activities, any of our retention efforts that we have going on in the region, recruitment efforts both internally and externally, And so this project that we've got in our area is really targeted on doing that. We're about 2 years into our project now. We've already had a couple spinoffs from those efforts. We'll need to talk about that as before, but I'll stop since we've got short time. So.
Great, thank you. Julie, can I hear your pitch for GoTech? Absolutely. So GoTech stands for Great Opportunities in Technology and Innovative Careers, and it builds on the legacy and the started really in Region 3 or concept in Region 3 to really think about how we get young people starting in middle school, probably not early enough, but that's where we're starting, interested in advanced manufacturing careers. And that includes everything from precision machining, metrology, robotics, automation, IT, cyber, welding, to get them to, again, be exposed to those careers, understand the training and education required, income opportunity there, and then present them with that pathway. Again, this is a pathway for us that starts in middle school with career connection labs. It then continues on through their secondary education, high school, through career technical education, dual enrollment programs supported by our community colleges and or higher education centers, and then continuing on again for secondary. For us, GoTech is about aligning efforts to create a really big funnel. And as we think about doing this at scale, it's those numbers that are impressive. And so we really believe for us in Region 3 that regions win. In a region that's largest in geography, smallest in population of the Virginia regions, we know we have to work together to, again, build economies of scale where we are seeing efficiencies. It's our opportunity to innovate within K-12 and bring together not only our educational systems, our private sector businesses, economic development, local government, to align efforts under a common brand where there's standardization that starts in middle school, but then also allows some flexibility.
Thank you. So Nick, or Lori Wilson, who's going to give the pitch for your combined project with K-12?
I can turn off and I'll turn it on. Okay. Kind of work really well together, which has been great about this project. We have a small school district in Chesapeake with roughly 40,000 and versus Loudoun with roughly around 80,000. So we're in two different sides of the state, but we've worked really well together. I think it's been a good fit, and we've been very collaborative. I think overall first pitch is that since 2020, our school districts have been working to provide a model for other areas and other districts in the state on developing computer science, and that would be to provide computational thinking, computer science in grades K-12, and really looking at providing work-based learning opportunities and internship opportunities for students to get that hands-on experience. We had several metrics that we were going to go by to increase those numbers, to have students who hopefully pick that as a major when they graduate from college and this other area. I'll let them kind of take over a little bit some more about that.
Great, thank you, Lori. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Julie. Fantastic projects. So we built a K-12 computer science pipeline for the Commonwealth of Virginia. As Lori said, this is not just for our two school divisions, but it was for every school division in the Commonwealth. We want to share everything that we create, from curriculum to figuring out how to create internships for 18 and under students and get them in that workforce. So for us, it was developing workforce readiness skills. It was getting our students prepared for jobs that don't exist. And so for us, when we looked at the GMD, we looked at goal number 1. We saw the challenge that the number of workers entering technology-related occupations is insufficient to meet regional demand. Well, for us, we said challenge accepted. And we set forth to connect with our business community in order to connect our students with those jobs out there in the computer science umbrella. Data analytics, like Lori said, cybersecurity, and other jobs that exist within computer science. So our pitch is really to prepare our students for that computer science work.
And so with Go Virginia, a lot of these questions are about how we actually review applications. So we look at economic impact. We're thinking about growing and diversifying regional economies, incentivizing regional collaboration to increase impact and create efficiencies, and creating building blocks to support the creation of higher paying jobs. So my next question is about economic impact. And for the sake of time again, I'm gonna actually ask Julie in the GOTech project and then Sean of his maritime workforce projects to determine and describe the economic impact of your project to be, how did you determine the potential economic impact of your project to key stakeholders? So going in the way back days before you got the fund. Right. How did you get it going and how did you bring these stakeholders in and get them around the table? And then really, how would you connect this to other efforts that are going on in the region?
Sure. So I'll start with the economic impact question. So, for us, GOTech is about job growth. It's about making our region more successful and competitive. The pitch, though, for us was, job growth, and we want to start with middle schoolers. Okay, so you're years from seeing some of this return on investment. So first, I want to say thank you to Go Virginia, because we've made an investment that starts in middle school. We're asking companies to come to the Commonwealth of Virginia and make tremendous investment. We need to show them our partnership with them and say, and here's what we're doing to invest in your future workforce. And we take them to these middle schools and we can show them the investment that we're making, how we've aligned efforts across a large region of the Commonwealth of Virginia to do this work, to supply them with a talent pool that's going to be qualified with the skills that they're going to need. So again, it's George Mason kind of helped us with that return on investment projection and what this is going to look like from job placement. So again, business attraction, but also helping existing business grow within our region. And so that's the pitch that we've been making to Go Virginia. And again, thank you for that investment because we're asking companies to come to Virginia and do that exact same thing.
So awesome. Sean, what do you have to say?
So we started our efforts about 4 years ago, and at that time, that 26,000 was really 10,000. Offshore wind was still a twinkle in an eye, an idea. The bridges were just getting started, and we hadn't got the Columbia class through our shipyards, and some of the contracts didn't come to the ship building, the ship repair. So our original ROI was we were going to facilitate the hiring of 3,300 people, so about a third of the 10,000. Since then, that's continued to grow, and we're on track for the 3,300. But from our efforts, we have been able to expand tangentially to other efforts that are going to bring in those employees. So, for example, GOTech, we're working on bringing GOTech to our region through one of our partnerships that came out of this effort. So our ROI was really around these high-paying jobs because the average wage for some of these jobs is about $46,000. And in this market, you get unlimited overtime. There's growth opportunities. It just goes up from there. So really, that's what our initial take was. Since then, it's continued to grow, and the demand has continued to grow. So working with additional partners, brought in additional areas. And this is a Virginia-based program, but we're actually trying to bring in people from North Carolina to come work in our region just to fill these positions with businesses. That's really what our initial ROI was.
So moving on, we've already talked about regional collaboration a little bit, but let's talk more. That's another component of Virginia, and your projects are so unique and so awesome in terms of their regionality. So for Nick or Lori, for your Virginia K-12 Computer Science Pipeline project, please describe how you developed your projects and why thinking regionally made sense. And then I guess for you all, since you're region 7 and 5, how did those two regions get together? Region 7 is Northern Virginia, region 5 is Hampton Heights.
Well, we got together using this amazing tool called Google Meet.
It works most of the time.
Yes, absolutely. In all seriousness, we met virtually quite a bit. Once we got the people in place, got the miracle worker, we call her Christina Lee, who's in the audience today. She's our experiential learning coordinator. When we got her involved, we hired Rory on the Chesapeake side. We really started cooking because we started connecting with our business leaders. We started connecting with the Loudoun Economic Workforce Development, Nancy Longo. She is absolutely phenomenal. So we started meeting with business leaders around both of our regions, and that's where the magic started happening. I know we'll get to numbers a little bit later, but I'm pretty excited. We were tasked, as you know, to fulfill 275 internships over 2 years. Well, we're not quite at 2 years just yet, but we're at 481 internships. To have that happen during a global pandemic is absolutely amazing. So my hat goes off to Lori and Christina for getting that accomplished. They did it simply by just connecting with people, and that was very difficult. It was virtual. It was cold calling. There's things that education is not really used to doing, and we had to change our mindset. And so I'll let Lori pick it up from there, because again, she's one of the miracle workers, but that's what we did. Put people in place, made those connections, and the magic happened.
Yeah, and I think it's been great. Like I said before, we're totally 2 different school districts, but we've been able to work really well. Like Nick said, we met quite a bit doing Google Meets. We were actually able to work together to present at a busy conference in December, and then a conference called FETC in Orlando. We're actually working on another conference together that they're going to be hosting in GOVa in June, so I'm going to be coming down for that. So we've been able to work really collaboratively well together. And I think Tina and I, as far as internships, I'm really proud of what we've been able to do, because during the pandemic, we were very nervous about what this was going to look like. But I really feel like when I first hit the ground running and I went out to businesses and talked to them, they were like, yes, they really saw the need. We definitely need students. You know, there's a gap in that workforce, having kids ready to go. So we kind of changed our mindset on some companies. Some companies were a little hesitant on having students come in. We switched to do some virtual internships. We both did virtual internship fairs. I believe Lavin has done 6 and we've done 4. That turned out really well because businesses were able to connect with students. They could stay right in their office. They could turn around and talk. We were able to kind of work it out. And so students were able to actually get in meeting sessions with businesses to find out like what their career goals, you know, career paths, how they got where they were, and also any internship opportunities they have. I know one of the questions on here was some of the challenges, and some of it, of course, was COVID. I think that kind of put a little damper on, but we actually were able to turn the corner and, you know, provide these internships, so we're really proud of. I think another thing would probably be some of the equipment that we had to order were a little delayed because of shipping costs, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, and things like that. But other than that, it has been very successful. I'm really excited about working together, you know, still and in the future.
Great. And I, Julie already mentioned how Region 3 is the largest geography with the smallest population, but yet they were able to put together this incredible, expansive project. Can you just elaborate a little bit more, again, early days, how you got everyone on board and any lessons learned about just taking that regional approach?
Absolutely. So process is important. So originally this started grassroots from some common needs, and really the conversation started with some of our higher education partners who I can't applaud enough that are responsive to the needs of business and industry. But what they were finding is they're putting programs together. The programs and the opportunities are there. It's attracting students to those opportunities. And so that's where some of the conversation really kind of started, kind of, you know, grassroots, but how do we then reach and engage K-12? And think about innovation in K-12. I have a long drive. I have about a 2.5 hour drive up here. So that's a long time for me to think and process. And I'm also mindful as, you know, we have the conversations with K-12 about innovation. At some level, that word also means disruption. Same thing. I think innovation is more positive than disruption. But, you know, thinking about ways that we can innovate in a space around K-12 that's very focused on SOLs, testing, outcomes. So where are the spaces to innovate? So I'd say it's building collaboration as we convene partners. It's having some level of understanding of their win. What does this need to look like for them to get a win out of it at the end of the day? And if they need to check a box, if it helps them. So again, those partnerships, being a trusted partner, convening people. Again, it's been difficult over the last couple of years, so we kind of do that in a different way. So for us, it really started grassroots, bringing trusted people together to have conversations about needs. What did we want to do together? And then go find funding to do that beautiful thing that we all had voice in. It was inclusive. We made sure it checked boxes for everybody as we built this thing together. And some of our success, this started with 3 pilot labs in Region 3. This coming academic year, we'll be in 25 schools across the state. So there's a hunger and an appetite for this. But again, I think part of it's because we listened to what K-12 needed to look like. We listened to our higher ed partners, and we listened to business and industry and what they needed to get out of it.
Yeah, can you talk really quick, because I'm administering this project. Can you talk a little bit about the GOTech board and how that was just really quick?
So what
its makeup is?
Sure. So we do have an advisory board for GOTech, and it is comprised of kind of those partners that I just laid out for you. So initially, there are 6 institutions of higher education in Region 3. So again, we'll start with community college and higher education centers. Let me qualify that. That was the core group that was having conversation. We asked each of those partners to bring a K-12 representative to the table and bring a business partner to the table, so that we had equal representation amongst those 3, because for a talent pipeline, you had to have all 3 of them at the table together and have a conversation.
I think I'm going to jump to my next question about talent pathways and the planning initiative. Sarah's going to give a little bit of background on the new language of the budget, but question about that, and I'll go to the computer science pipeline project first, is really how, for your region, how has your project helped develop a more robust talent pipeline in your respective regions to support computer science many industries?
Sure, so I promise I'll keep it brief for once. So under the strategic vision that Loudoun County Public Schools has under Dr. Ziegler, Dr. Ellis, and Mr. Neil Slevin, we had a reorg occur just earlier in the school year, where the Department of Instruction brought in an assistant director of teaching and learning who oversees the Career and Technical Education Office, the Computer Science Office, and the Community Connections Office. My boss, Renee Dawson, is in the audience today, and she's done a phenomenal job already leading this group. So we created, out of those 3 offices, LCPS Partner, which connects with the business community. So it's not just Christina, but it's one other supervisor and our work-based learning specialist, which some of you might be familiar with in CTE programs. So they connect and they work together, establishing those business relationships. What's been fantastic about you all funding this part of the project is that Loudoun County in the reorg was able to get instructional facilitators of computer science. We have 10 in all, 7 that work with our 60 elementary schools and 3 that work with our 17 middle schools. And they work to teach our teachers how to use computational thinking and embrace the computer science SOLs inside within the core subject classes that we have. So because of you all, we've been able to create a pretty nice infrastructure that works internally inside Loudoun County Public Schools to build student and teacher capacity, preparing them for the workforce, and then also connecting with the workforce to provide authentic learning experiences and those internships and externships. Sorry, I lied. I'm not going to do that brief. One example, Mr. Uday Kumar from Acura Technologies. He's not only a parent of 2 students in Loudoun County Public Schools, but he owns Acura Technologies. He came to our computer science CLT last week and asked the teachers, do you want to work with our company next year, either at the middle school level or the high school level? We will provide a mentorship for your students. Just let us know. So now the teachers don't have to go connecting with companies. We're doing it for them so that they can do what they're hired to do, teach. Sorry, Lori.
Yeah, you're good. I was here for Chesapeake. One of the main things is, of course, with the funding, we were able to purchase robotic equipment for our science programs in middle school. So every 8th grader who's in science class, of course, has had that exposure. The other key thing is we were able to add computer science to all of our middle schools. We did not have that before. So we now have a computer science class elective for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students in all 10 of our middle schools. And we are able to hire teachers for those. In those classes, of course, students are learning how to program, how to code, robotics, drones. They're doing after-school programs. We have a coding club, robotics clubs. We have a really powerful Girls Who Code club from our schools. And so through that, we're exposing those students, and that's kind of how we're looking at, the talent pipeline. It's exposing those students at an earlier age, and in those classes, they're able to see, careers and what they're able to do. And again, in my role, I actually work in our CTE office, in our career technical education office. So it was a really good fit because I understand the workforce behind it. So that's how we're running our program through those classes. Another thing we decided to do in Chesapeake is we're doing a Grow Our Own program. And so this past year, we had students that were in our cybersecurity classes that were actually working at IT help desk at each of our high schools. So they were working alongside the TSS in that building and learning hands-on experiences as far as jobs goes. And then this summer, we're offering a larger Grow Our Own program where we're going to have students working in different departments within Chesapeake, and one of those is going to be in our IT department. And they're going to be able to do those hands-on experiences for students. So that way, we're exposing students early on so they can kind of see what it feels like and what it looks like. Really feel like that's the best way for students to learn and to be ready. Another key factor, I think, when I was going out with the businesses, some of them in the very beginning, back in September 2020, were a little bit, I don't think I can have interns in right now, we just all at home remotely, but what can I do? And I never had a business say that they did not want to help. So we were able to form a computer science advisory board. So it's different than our CTE advisory board. We have a computer science advisory board made up of 12 companies throughout Hampton Roads, and we meet with them 3 or 4 times a year. And they've just really been able to tell us what they need and what they want students to know. And from that, we've been able to develop a new course of a work-based learning seminar class that students are going to be able to enroll in this summer and next fall to learn those work-based learning type skills that they need.
So we're really running short on time, but Shauna, thank you so much. It's really great to hear that description. Real quick for the maritime industry and Hampton Roads, Shauna, where would the maritime industry be without government? Didn't know if it didn't exist.
Well, they'd be struggling to find people. And I can really quickly just say, in the 2 years, we've developed stronger partnerships with all the players, led by an industry-driven. So now we have a maritime ecosystem in the region that's K-12, community college, 4-year institution, proprietary schools that are all on the same track. I brought a copy of this. We've developed a roadmap that we're using for the industry that we can share for the maritime. We're going to be launching this into healthcare, information technology, cyber, and we're just, bottom line is we're all in lockstep. Economic development, Reinvent Hampton Roads, which is our Go Virginia board, us, and we're all in lockstep to make sure we're
Julie, as we're nearing the end of the, the competitive growth tech grant, where are we in terms of outcomes? Like, we parts of the region one?
Absolutely. So I would say for us, again, you've got a map here I gave you one handout on expansion, so you can kind of see the power button and how this is expanded across the 58 corridor. But the model, I think, translates to other regions of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So for us, this translates when we bring in a prospect, and if that's a prospect that's looking at our 3,500 acre mega site, talk to them about the 7,000 middle school students that are now in a pipeline directed at technology and engineering careers. We don't talk to them about the 20 precision machinists that we're producing. We talk to them about the 250 precision machining students that are graduating every year. We talk to them about the 400 students that are getting welding certifications every year. That scale is what is selling our region. And again, you can see this is connecting to other regions that are going to need to take advantage of the scale, aggregating numbers to, again, help private businesses feel comfortable about expanding their business in the Commonwealth or locating to the Commonwealth, because we can absolutely supply them with the talent that they need. And we're making those investments early and often.
Thank you so much. And I know we went really fast, but we are short on time. But Vice Chair, do we have time?
Yeah, Jenny, just,
Board
maybe,
questions?
just a couple minutes from members of the board. Any questions for, yeah.
I just want to make a comment. You haven't seen anything till you see a little girl in middle school dress up in all garb, a welding outfit, the whole work, get in front of a Lincoln welder simulator, pulls a bead, and all the class is looking because up on the board it's showing exactly how good she's doing. And she gets through and she smokes all the boys. And now you're talking about excitement. It's bringing real life to the skills of this sort of thing. And the whole thing is tailor made around competitive hands-on development. And that's, we all know in learning, the more you're able to put your hands on it, the more you learn. So really it's done a phenomenal job.
Just quickly, a couple of points. One is, I think these are great programs. I think it's important to make the point that the business community needs to be right there with the schools to talk about the skills that are needed going forward. So that the curriculum that is presented is one that's relevant to the skills that are going to be needed to fill a future job. So to the extent we can get more businesses at the table, that's important. Also, you need to talk about the fact that the paradigm is changing now. And you don't need a 4-year degree to get high-paying jobs now. And especially with the CTE component, we need to be letting people know. And I would go so far as in elementary school to start to say these are job paths that you can follow to get trade skill jobs, nurses, to go into, as we put here, doing building for broadband. There are a lot of great jobs out there that only require a certificate or an associate's degree. And the students need to know that, but more importantly, the parents need to know that these are options that are available to their kids if they get on the right pathway early on. So it's got to be that kind of collaborative effort. And the business community is certainly, to the extent that the state chamber is engaged, we've been advocating that for years, and if we can be helpful to you guys, we're going to do that.
Great.
Just a request, Julie, next time you come to Richmond, can you bring the bus with you?
We tried.
Yeah.
We couldn't get parking secured outside. Actually, the bus is here, so if you're gonna be in Richmond today, this evening or tomorrow, Chev is having their state Year Up conference, so the bus is here in Richmond.
Can you just describe it quickly? I got to see it at the all hands meeting in Region 3, and it was amazing. Cool part of the program.
So for several years, the Institute, we had an inspiration lab. It was a mobile STEM bus. We would take it to, fairs and those kinds of things. When GoTech started, we made the decision strategically to reimagine that bus. So it's got GoTech all over the wrap on the bus. We are taking that to elementary schools to make sure for career connections, as GoTech starts in the middle school, we have some middle schools that 100% of those 6th graders are having those hands-on experiences. Some of our school systems, the students have to opt into that. So we know we got to get to those 5th graders and those parents and say, okay, now when you get your course selection guide, I need you to pick GoTech. If you think this is really cool, 2 of my summer interns are actually going to turn the bus into an escape room for 5th graders so they can get these experiences and kind of cool ways we can talk to them about welders and 3D printers and robotics and all that good stuff. So.
Joe Wilson, final comment, question?
Well, Julie, I just want to thank you and GoTech for the freebies that you got there. That's very nice. I might suggest that some samples from 2 Inches Brewery.
I'll bring those next time.
Let me just say on behalf of the board, I want to thank John and Julie for thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your collaboration. Nick, I only pick on Google because my oldest daughter is a cyber engineer at Google, and I pick on her all the time about that. That's all.
Well done. Well
I
done.
really appreciate the work that you're doing, the collaboration. Again, thank you for making the trip. And Andrew, we appreciate your leadership very much as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's going to be a lot more in town pathway. Do you want to say anything about that?
I do, just real quickly. I wanted to let you know that there is an item in the budget, the enrolled budget, that outlines a new one-time $2.5 million allocation to the Growth and Opportunity Virginia program to start an initiative called the Go Virginia Talent Pathways Initiative. The planning grant goals is really to identify and address business workforce needs, regional industry clusters. So imagine what we've just kind of seen here in maritime and in advanced manufacturing and then in computer science. this kind of industry-driven, reflective research and identifying assets and gaps. Key partners, again, mentioned in the budget, Virginia Economic Development Partnership, specifically their Office for Education and Labor Market Alignment. We have had some conversations with them. We will continue. Next slide, please. So this is what we see as next steps. DHCD and BDP will collaborate on the development of lines, develop some joint recommendations on submitted applications, et cetera. OELMA will provide analytical support to the regional councils to help develop this analysis. Again, much of this language is extracted directly from the budget. Planning grants, no longer than 1 year from the start date, one-time appropriation of funds, so that $2.5 million is not an increase in our base level budget, but will provide an opportunity for regions who are interested. And we would encourage them, given the success of these other efforts, to pursue some of these sector-based workforce talent development initiatives. And this is a reverting fund, meaning any funds that are not expended up as 2.5 million will revert if it is not expended or obligated within a year of the program start. So anybody have any questions about
So a lot
that?
of good work to do. If our friend W, when we're here, he would be passionate right now about the pathways that's built. There's a lot of work to do in the weeks and months ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So let me just, before we need to say thank you to the public that participated by video conference. Appreciate your presence and participation. I also want to thank our partners in the General Assembly and Administration for your continued support. Appreciate Speaker, you, Delegate Austin, appreciate Senator Powell, Senator Russ, Barker, and from the administration, Secretary Thomas, Secretary Barrett, we appreciate for Virginia. I also want to thank Brian, Sarah, as always, Andrea, as always, the entire team that does a tremendous amount of work to get ready for these meetings. And also just thank the board, not just for being here today for your participation, but also all the work that goes on between the meetings, the work groups, a lot of effort goes into getting ready for these, and we appreciate your participation. So with that, unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to.
Second.
Thank you all. Stay around this time.
Yeah. 4 meetings. Yeah.